Hello everybody, this is the Daydreamer with Daydreams and Nightmares, and this is going to be my latest installment of Welcome to My Collection Wednesdays. What you see here is the Warriors of Plasm from Defiant. What I'm going to be showing off today are all of the comics that I have that were published by Defiant Comics between 93 and 94, 1993 and 1994. Because that's as long as Defiant Comics stayed in business. The comic book that you're looking at, Warriors of Plasm 1, is both the start of and end of the Defiant Company. Jim Shooter, who used to work for Marvel, left them to go work for Valiant, and eventually wound up leaving Valiant to go start his own title, which is Defiant here. Now I have to assume, I'm going to make a few assumptions here as well, that when he left Marvel he didn't necessarily leave on very good terms, because I have to think that would be the only reason that they would go after him so hard. And I have to think that at one point in time while he was working for Marvel that he had proposed the idea of Plasm, and the lawsuits that Marvel brought against Jim Shooter and Defiant Comics for the title of Plasm, because in '93 Marvel created their own character through their English imprint brand in order to prevent him from creating these characters. He actually had to change the name from Plasm to Warriors of Plasm. And even after changing the name from Plasm to Warriors of Plasm, they still continued to pursue the lawsuit against Jim Shooter, which they eventually lost. But because of the long-term litigation and the cost involved in a lawsuit with Marvel, Defiant went bankrupt, basically. They couldn't afford to publish books anymore because of all the litigation from Marvel over this particular title. So they only had about a year and a half run as a company, and the books that they put out were under primarily, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 titles that they were able to put out over that time period, and I only managed to collect books from 4 of those titles, and actually I don't even have full runs of any of these titles as well either. They become harder and harder to get and further between because of the costs involved in litigation, and the store that I was at stopped ordering them as well, so they became harder to find. But anyway, I'm going to go through the ones that I have from Defiant in these 4 different titles that I do have, and let you know about the ones that were available or are probably still out there that I don't have in my collection. But anyway, you're looking at Warriors of Plasm 1. This is kind of like taking the idea of Venom and Carnage and the idea of symbiotes to an extreme level, where you basically have an entire world that is symbiotic. Everything in the world is alive, where apparently humans from Earth are being transported to Plasm, to this planet, for biogenetic experimentation. And you have these warriors that are fighting the creatures that are doing this to the humans. And that was the basic premise of the storyline here with the Warriors of Plasm. You're looking at Warriors of Plasm 1, and I actually have a couple copies of this. I was always a believer in picking up 2 books whenever I went. I'm a reader before anything else. But I'm a collector as well. So I bought one to read, and I bought one to preserve, one to collect, essentially. because I knew as soon as I cracked that spine to read it that my books were no longer in mint condition. Looking at Warriors of Plasm, number 2. Now, most of these books, too, a lot of them in this series, Jim Shooter was the writer, but not necessarily. He didn't do the inks or the covers or the. But most of these stories and the idea and creations of these characters were all from Jim Shooter, but not necessarily drawn or created in that respect. We have Warriors of Plasm 3 here, and I actually have 2 copies of this. Warriors of Plasm 4. And then Warriors of Plasm 5. And that is the last one that I have in that particular run. Although Warriors of Plasm did go all the way through 13. They managed to put out 13 issues before they went under. And in this particular case, I said I have 5. The first 4 were part of a story arc called The Sedition Agenda, and this one here was the start of a 3-story arc called Demons of Dark Edge. And then the last 4 books were all, I believe, one-shot stories. Next title from Defiant is The Good Guys. Which essentially is a story of a group of people that discovered they suddenly have powers and go out and essentially become good guys. They go save people and chase after villains. And this is a story that only had about a 9-story arc. Only 9 issues were put out for The Good Guys. We have Good Guys number 1 here, and I do have 2 issues of that as well. And I did not get number 2 because I jumped up to 3, so I didn't get number 2, but I did pick up number 4. And like I said, that's all I have there is only 3 issues of that as well. And there were only 9 published in that storyline. Next title that I have from Defiant is Dark Dominion, which kind of reminded me of Constantine. One of the reasons why this actually attracted me as far as the storyline, where a gentleman who is the story or the center of the storyline here is helping people with their demons, literally. And this is a storyline that was comprised of 10 issues. Dark Dominion had a 10-issue run, and I think I only got a couple of those as well. I have Dark Dominion 1, Dark Dominion 2, and that might be it. Yeah, I just have the first 2 issues. And that had a 10-issue run, so there were 8 other books that were put out as part of this. And then the only other one that I have in my collection is I have War Dancer number 1. And War Dancer only had 6 issues of it put out. And the other titles that I don't have that were produced by Defiant Comics were Dogs of War, which only had 5 issues, Prudence and Caution, which only had 2 issues, and Charlemagne, which only had 5 issues, 1 through 5, although there was an Origin, a 0 as well. So that was it for Jim Shooter and Defiant Comics. They were out from 93 to 94 and only managed to put out those titles: Warriors of Plasm, The Good Guys, War Dancer, Dark Dominion, Dogs of War, Prudence and Caution, and Charlemagne. And of those, I only managed to pick up about 11, I think 11 issues of that. maybe I have about 20% of what was produced for that entire publisher, for Defiant Comics. Now I know he's gone on and done other work on other comic books as well, and has still been active within the community with respect to this publishing line with Defiant Comics. That was it. About 6 months, or sorry, a year and a half worth of publishing, with the longest run of any comic book being 13 issues. Well, I hope you enjoyed a little explanation of what's available here. It's for Dark Comics, Defiant, Dark Dominion, Warriors of Plasm, Good Guys, War Dancer, that I have in my collection. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe if you want to watch more. Feel free to leave any comments or feedback down below. If you got any Defiant books yourself, feel free to let me know and tell me about it. But thank you for watching.